Big news today for crypto. The US House stablecoin bill poised to go public as Congress pushes the bill through the process, a bill that would finally regulate stablecoins.
So this bill is currently going through the Senate. It passed the Senate Banking Committee 18-6. I did a vote count right before I came on the air, and I think this does get the 60 votes it needs in the Senate and overcomes any potential filibuster. Now, I think this bill will pass sometime between May and July, and what it does is it sets up stablecoin issuers to be regulated either by the feds or by the state authorities and requires them to have 100% high-quality liquid assets. But most importantly, it brings regulatory clarity and loosens up enforcement risk so that these issuers and these tokens can then operate in the United States going forward.
And what this would do for cryptocurrency is massive. The entire US capital market gets unlocked on the passing of the stablecoin bill. This could easily be the next catalyst in crypto, just like the two big catalysts that pushed price up at the beginning of 2024 and at the end of 2024. Are these catalysts done?
Okay, so let's talk about 2024, right? So in 2024, we had two big catalysts. We had ETF buyers. If we look at the ETF buyers based on 13F filings from December, majority of those are firms that are farming the basis trade, right? They're not long-term holders. It's not mom and pop going out and buying in their brokerage account.
Explain how that works.
Okay, so basically how it works is people are buying the ETF and then shorting Bitcoin.
Okay.
So they're capturing a basis spread. If we look at MicroStrategy, convert arbitrage, right? It's convert arbitrage, great strategy. MicroStrategy and IBIT have been propping up that complex. They've been the predominant buyers, and they now hold 6% of the Bitcoin supply. So a lot of growing concerns are at a potential black swan if that trade unwinds.
And I love Melton Demur's analysis. I do think the black swan fear is a bit sensationalized. She's really just saying is, what's the next catalyst now that these two things are done? Not that the ETFs won't continue to buy, but it's just normal now. It's priced in. So what's next? What's interesting about a stablecoin bill is that this catalyst is great for Ethereum. It's great for Tron, Solana, as well as BSC. This is something Donald Trump is pushing because breaking news as of a few days ago, Trump's World Liberty, which is his crypto company, has deployed a stablecoin named USD1 on the BNB chain, meaning Donald Trump wants this stablecoin bill to pass. There's hundreds of billions of dollars already in Ethereum, Tron, Solana, as well as a few others in the stablecoins. Also, the Ripple XRP ledger is quietly gaining traction through their RLUSD stablecoin. And the news today is this: Ripple stablecoin RLUSD skyrockets 319% in 24-hour trading volume. Why is Ripple's stablecoin seeing this much volume so quickly? And all this is before the bill, before the space is regulated. Regulating this could move this number into the tens, into the hundreds of trillions. And Bloomberg Intelligence's Nathan Dean explains.
Nathan, what do you see as the big difference when this bill becomes law versus before it becomes law, if it indeed does become law?
Well, for the issuers in particular, it's going to mean much more in terms of costs. Probably think about tens of millions of dollars in terms of compliance costs for these issuers. Now, the issuers are going to be happy to pay it. It means that they are not going to be brought up on enforcement violations or anything like that because, even though the enforcement risk apparatus is much lowered today because of the changing guard at the SEC, unless that law changes, nothing prohibits a future SEC from coming back and saying, hey, you're operating against the law. Here's an enforcement action for your trouble. So I think the issuers are going to pay more money, but it also brings more acceptance to the idea of stablecoins in the United States. The one area that I think is not going to be happy with this is community banks. Because if you think about it, like, where are you going to get the money for stablecoins? If I decide to put more money into stablecoins, it's most likely going to come out of deposits. So that could come up as an issue as we see this debate go into the bigger, broader Senate, but I don't think that's going to be an issue that stops this bill from passing.
Also, Chainlink is working on their own proof of stablecoin bill. I need to share with you this clip, but coming back to this chart, like I said we would, it appears the death cross is closer to happening. So a death cross, which has happened multiple times in Bitcoin's history, is really just when a shorter term moving average, typically the 50-day, crosses underneath the longer term moving average, the 200-day, signaling bearish short-term price momentum. And although it's a trailing indicator, I'll explain, it does usually crash price. I put out this post on March 18th, so now it's 8 days later, but back then I said, just in, Bitcoin about to make a death cross, the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages, extremely bearish. Note, This is not confirmed, just an early watch warning. If you're trading this, get up to $8,000 in trading bonuses with code ALTCOINDAILY on Bitunix. Limited time for the bonus, link down below. But check this out. We see a death cross happened here, here, and most recently back in July of 2024. And what you'll notice is this is typically a trailing indicator. So you'll see the price crash happened into it. It didn't happen after it. It happened into it. Also, like here, happened before. Like here, the crash happened before. Like here, the crash happened before. And we're on death cross watch again. Checking back in, it's now 8 days later. And it does look like the 50-day moving average is eventually going to cross that 200-day moving average. Bitcoin has sort of risen into it because we don't really have a big catalyst happening in the next 4 to 6 weeks, right? If that stablecoin bill gets passed, that's going to happen at least a month from now, maybe 2 months from now. Will we see a sell-off again? Now, also, you could make the argument is, hey, we already did. Bitcoin went from $98,000 to high mid $70,000. That was it. I am not a fortune teller. I don't know what the Bitcoin price will do tomorrow, and neither do you. Anybody that tells you that they do is lying to you. But what I do know is that traders control the market in the short term. Fundamentals control assets and markets long term. Let's keep tabs on this. And this is actually really big. Chainlink just confirmed they're working on a bill with lawmakers called the Proof of Bill, requiring stablecoins and real-world assets to have a proof of reserves. It will literally be the law to use Chainlink if passed.
The proof of bill that we're working on with a number of other legislators and their staff and other groups here in DC is really focused on proving that the real-world assets that are backing a coin, whether it's a stable coin, whether it's a tokenized fund, whatever the coin is about, that those assets actually exist. And that proof about them existing doesn't happen on an annual audit basis, doesn't happen on a monthly report basis in the form of a PDF that, is very unclear. It's not very clear how anything was verified. But it happens on a second-by-second basis, so it happens in near real time. And beyond happening in near real time, you can drill down into the details of the underlying asset. So you wouldn't just know that it's treasuries. You would know that it's treasuries. You would know that it's 2-year or 5-year or 10-year treasuries. You would know the yield on the treasury tranches. You might even know the custodian with which those treasuries are held.
So this is super innovative. These will not be your granddad's stablecoins, so to speak. We can use blockchain technology for proof of reserves or just authenticity with these big players.
So the proof of bill and our work on proof of across different asset types will really allow for the most reliable assets to come out of the U.S. financial system. And just like the U.S. legislated into existence risk agencies, we think it should legislate into existence this proof of bill to make sure that the financial products generated in the U.S. system are fundamentally better and fundamentally more reliable because they require this high level of proof of information. And this goes very well and in line with the current model of what makes the U.S. financial system reliable, which is highly reliable assets with a certain level of regulation and information requirements. This is basically just continuing that, but doing that in an on-chain way that massively benefits the consumer, the market, and eliminates systemic financial risk. So this is what we hope the work we're doing now on the proof of bill will help us achieve.
Most people do not understand how big this will be. Also, anybody going to Bitcoin conference in Vegas later this year, my brother and I will be speaking main stage. Michael Saylor will be speaking, Cynthia Loomis will be speaking, Arthur Hayes, Saifedean, Grant Cardone, as well as us. Use code ALTCOINDAILY for 10% off your ticket before ticket prices increase. Link down below.